Welcome to another episode of the Dope Podcast, and I'm your host, Dean M. Chambers. And this is a podcast where we display other people's experience, expertise, and enhance your knowledge. This platform was created to help people combat the fear of missing out on opportunities. Also, a central place for you to ask your questions and for it to be answered. Uh, and a place for like-minded individuals to come to get inspired. So today, my guest is Rohan Peart, and we're going to be talking about home renovations. And I followed him and his journey through unfinished basement to a finished basement, and he came about saying, or I'm gonna let him get into the story, but pretty much he decided to fire his contractor and do it himself. And through the journey I have gone through, or just the horror stories that I've heard, sometimes, well, not sometimes, the majority of time, contractors like to overcharge people, or they don't like to divulge how much they're really spending on doing the work that they're saying they're doing, right? And we had this conversation a while back. So I said, you know what, this is probably something that a lot of people want to know about. So I'm going to let Rohan share his experience as to the process of start to finish of renovating his basement.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for having me on today and allowing me to be a part of this. Like me personally, I just have like a love for real estate. I'm not an agent, I'm not a broker, anything like that. I just love real estate. I'm always watching how Sigma and sales in different areas and stuff like that. It's just something I do. Um, and when I bought this home that I moved into roughly around a year ago, the ultimate goal was to finish the basement too as well, and I tried really hard to um to work with a contractor. So I had several people come in and give me a quote. One of the things I've learned along my ways of being in this industry is, you never let anyone put your back against the wall, and you have options. A lot of people who don't know about just any renovations or dealing with people when it comes to fixing up your home, you don't have to go to that one person, and that one person is the be all and end all, right? There's many resources out there for you to get quotes from people. And if you're not happy with the way the interaction is with someone, or if you're not happy with the final number they give you, keep it moving, find someone else,
Mm.
right? So in my case here, this happened during the time of pandemic. I don't know why I bought and sold a house during the pandemic, but I did. Um, and I was trying my hardest, my very hardest, to work with someone of my background, being Caribbean or someone like that. I try to give that an opportunity. And anytime I do have a project, I go in like a chronological order where I reach out to a family friend that I know is into that renovation stuff. If they're not available, I'll reach out to obviously someone that might be Black or someone of some sort of ethnic background. And if not, then I just go for whoever gives me the best price, right? But in this case, I was getting like a lot of really, really high quotes from just everyone and everybody, and I don't know why. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I think the highest quote I got was like around 120,000 to finish my basement. And I
Wow.
looked at the guy and I said, "Why don't I just go buy a small condo?" Right? Like that doesn't make any sense, right? So and then obviously they want to get the job, so they try to renegotiate and they try to say, hey, if I do this, if I do that, I can lower the price. But then they'll come back with like 98,000, right? So I'm just like, this really doesn't make any sense at all. So again, dating back to the pandemic, everyone was working from home or everyone was homebound. So I had the time and I had the opportunity to really sit down and plan everything out, right? I don't know if you have more questions or should I just keep on going?
Well, I got questions, but just continue going.
Yeah, yeah. So I had the time to like really sit down and plan everything out, and I encourage any and everybody that if you have the time to do so, and if even if you don't know it, you will figure it out. To Not that I'm like completely against contractors. I know that you need them for other things, but
So before you go on,
Yeah.
Where did you first start? Like, because a lot of people is like, yeah, I want to do my basement. The first place they're going is to a contractor. But
Yeah.
when you made that conscious decision to say, I don't
Mm.
want to use a contractor, I'm going to do it myself. What was the first step you took?
I think the first step I did was drawing out the plans, right? Get
Mm,
an idea of what I wanted. When you have an open space and open canvas, you just don't know. I mean, like a big blank room with just concrete walls, it's hard to vision what this is going to look like when it's finished.
mm,
So the first thing I did was I got the plans done, and I kind of went over some ideas with some contractors. Um, and then that's when I finally realized that, you know what, I'm going to cut these guys out. When I started picturing the room how I wanted it, and not to say they weren't getting what I wanted, getting the vision that I had, but I think to answer your question, it when I first decided I'm going to go um, do this on my own and sub out the work on my own was obviously when I saw the pricing come in. Obviously, it just didn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
And did you need any permits for the work that you did in your house?
Yeah. So I live in the Brampton area, and Brampton is notorious for having basement apartments. Everybody knows that. Um, Um, but during the time, which the height of the pandemic, which we're kind of still in, there's such a wait, a long, 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 long wait time for you to get those permits, for you to start building and stuff. But there is another way around it. If you do everything up to code, I literally have a booklet of everything up to code, everything, all the work, all the logs, pictures upon pictures upon pictures. So, when an inspector does come here to do so, and to make it a legal basement for resale purposes,
Hmm.
they don't have to rip open any walls or anything like that,
Mm,
right? So there is another way around it. Plus, I'm living here. I'm not renting it out. So,
mm,
but when it comes to code, my background is insurance. So I was a junior underwriter for a long time, but now I'm a claims adjuster. So I completely understand everything to do with code, right? So one of the questions and the main things, I don't know if we're going to tap on this later on, was I always made sure and vet everyone. And what I mean by vet, like, find out what they did, their background. Do you have liability? Because liability is very important, right? Do
mhm,
you have insurance for your company, for yourself? I cut no corners at all.
mhm. How did you find out that information?
They provide it to you,
Oh,
right? Who are
okay.
you with? What company are you with? Who insures you?
Mm,
Not everybody might be, well, not everybody, majority of people won't have access to the expensive tools that I have being in insurance, and I can reference that. But all this information is public information. And you can always call up the companies too as well. A lot of people don't know that. You can call a company and be like, hey, does Tim Welding have insurance with you? Is this a
mhm,
valid policy? And they'll be like, pardon me, they'll be like, yes. All right, cool.
mm,
Some of the fellows that I got to do certain jobs, they're part of a union,
mm.
right? So I knew right away that they had liability, right? So
Okay. And did you also speak to like their past clients, or you just pretty much the information that was on either the internet?
I didn't really call to any past clients or anything like that. I didn't go to that extent. I looked
Mm,
at their previous work, but I mean, pictures are just pictures.
yeah.
And if I liked what I saw, asked if they were available. Asked if they can do this job
Mm.
within this timeline, and obviously how much they charge.
And what challenges did you find with renovating your basement?
Um, I mean, that's a loaded question. Right? There's a lot. Um, um, with taking on the task of, I guess some people want to say that I became a general contractor. Um, I don't really look at it like that, but I guess in theory that's what happened. Um, there's just the fact that I had to buy all the materials, that's annoying itself. And also, overseeing the job, making sure that everything's going as scheduled, and making sure that these gentlemen that are doing the work on your homes, or ladies that are doing work on your home, are not wasting material,
Mm,
right? And also not taking your material too as well, right? Because
mm.
these things, these screws and these lug nuts, and let's not talk about lumber, those things like completely add up, right? So
Yeah. So one thing that kind of shocked me was a lot of, not a lot, but just contractors in general.
mhm.
They'll charge you for one price, and anything that they don't use, they can return it and get store credits for it. And sometimes they don't even return it back to the customer. They're just pocketing that money. So to me, that was kind of shocking when I found that out, that they could just return, even they can return material without receipts after like 90 days of having the material or whatever it may be, which is pretty crazy to me, and why people should ask for either a detailed sheet or buy the supplies themselves, so that the contractors can't try to rip them off with the additional supplies that they have. And how did you get the money to do the renovations for your basement?
Yeah, before I answer that, and it is true, I know all about returns because I had a bunch of stuff I had to return.
Mm,
I was fortunate enough to become friends with people at the local Home Depot because they saw me in there every single day, right?
mm,
And they saw me buying stuff, asking questions, figuring things out, calculating things per square footage, recalculating things and stuff like that. But in terms of the funds that I had, um, I sold my previous home, um, and that's how I got the funds to do that, right?
mm,
And then when you sell all your home, when you sell your home and you move into another home, there's always a ton of stuff you have to get, and just moving and selling and buying itself is a whole nother friggin' stress itself. But you want to make sure your renovation doesn't make you go broke, right? So I just couldn't fathom paying 100,000, 98,000, 80,000 to get this completed.
mm.
Right?
And how much were you able to save through this whole process? I guess considering 120 was the top number that you got.
If I go by the highest number, which is like 120,000 to do it, honestly, Dean, I got my basement done, completed, walls, plumbing, electrical, everything. Um, Less a kitchen installed, which I just bought an IKEA kitchen, which was like cheap.
Mm.
Um, Probably 38,000.
Wow, that's crazy. 38,000.
38,000. And it would have been cheaper if lumber wasn't so expensive.
Wow.
Yeah. And mind you, I didn't cut any corners at all. None.
And I'm here thinking that to do a basement, you're probably charging anywhere 60 to 80,000 from the prices
You
I'm here.
can. You
Yeah.
can. Right. A real good buddy of mine out in Hamilton, they live in like the Mountain View and
Mhm.
Casper area. They kind of bought and sold around the same time as me a couple months before, and they were looking to get their basement done. And one about the contractors, he works, right? His wife just had a child, so she was at home, and
Mhm.
plus, she had to work from home too as well because of the pandemic. Um, so she was talking to a lot of the contractors, and she called me. She's like, honestly, Rohan, I feel like because I'm a woman, these guys are taking advantage of me and throwing these crazy prices out and stuff like that. But she's like, I'm not an idiot. One, two, I know what I'm talking about, right? Um, So she goes, you know what? I think I'm going to take your route and just get it done myself. And that's exactly what she did. And her basement is probably just a little bit smaller than mine. And she only did half of the basement. The other half is unfinished, where she storage and stuff like that. And she has plans to finish it in the future. And she probably got it all done for maybe 18 grand, maybe
Wow.
17, 15 grand, just
Wow.
because she subbed out all the work herself.
Oh, just that extra little step you just take to do it yourself instead of
Exactly. It's a
hiring.
lot of work. It's challenging. It can be frustrating. Um, you got to plan people's schedules. You got to figure out like, hey, you know what? The plumber can work the same time the electrician guy's working. Just work on different sides of the rooms, and you got to get your framing in here, and you got to make sure your framer's doing what he's doing, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then you get a lot of warped wood. You got to return all that nonsense, right? But once you get the bones in here, and the bones meaning the framing,
Mhm.
you go through everything and make sure everything's fine, because you can always change everything at that point. Then it starts rolling.
So after you got to I guess went through the contractors, knew the vision you had for your basement, um, how did you know or what trade was needed next to do your basement? So I guess obvious is framing, but then how
Yeah.
did you know what the next contract or the next trade to come in afterwards?
I was fortunate to know some family members that are contractors themselves, and they were like super proud of me. They even took some of my contacts,
Mm,
right? Literally, they're like, "Yo, you did such a good job vetting people. Give me these contacts." And I did. And literally one of them came to help me out with installing my kitchen the other day. And he's like, yo, your buddy, your electrician came on one of my jobs.
Oh wow.
Right. Yeah, right. So and he's like, yo, I love that guy. He's just so so soft spoken, gets his work done and he's out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And he works with you in terms of pricing. But um how did I know? I asked a lot of questions. You know, what do I do next? Where do I go from here? Okay, what's next? You know, and not only would I ask the family friend questions, I would also research too as well. You know, the
Mhm.
process of building, what steps, what stages happens. You know what I mean? And do you have to go in that order, or can you get your plumbing done before your
Mhm.
electricity gets done, and then you realize that there is no set order for that stuff. But
Mhm.
I mean, you got to get your framing done before your drywall, like the obvious things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah,
So when you did your research, was it HGTV or like Google research?
um, I definitely Google researches, a lot of YouTube. YouTube can show you a lot of TikTok videos, and it can also show you a lot of things that are informative, right? YouTube, Google, and then again, reaching out to people, just asking people who are in the industry of what I was trying to do.
Mhm.
You know, what's the next steps? You know,
Yeah.
I had to deal with a lot of people coming in and giving their opinions when I didn't ask. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I had someone come in, and a couple of guys come in and check out, like, hey, can you do this drywalling job? Oh, why did your framer do it this way? Why did they do it? Oh, why did your electrician do it this way? I'm like, are you an electrician? No, I do drywall. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, can you get the job done? What's your price? I didn't ask for your opinion. I know it was done properly. All
Mhm.
right. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you said that you kept you had a book or like a book of records. Is
Yeah, I
that
have
something
a,
you just started on your own or someone
I think it's
advised you?
in, no, no, no. I started that on my own.
Mm.
Actually, um, well, yeah, someone kind of said keep a record of everything if you're not going to, if you're going to get a legal basement after. A lot
Mm.
of people think that, you know, getting a legal basement is, it's not hard. It's just apply for it. You get a permit, submit your drawings, you're going to get approved,
Mhm.
especially because you're in Brampton. It'd probably be harder if you're in Richmond Hill because they don't really do a lot of tenant basements down there
Yeah.
now. I used to do them before, all right? Um, but overall, though, I was advised to keep a log of things, but I created that booklet.
Mm.
Um, and I got that idea from my friends, who, the same guys who moved into the home in Ancaster. The previous owner left them a booklet of
Mm.
everything about the house,
Mm.
which is really cool. And I was like, that was really nice of them to do. Like the attic, the wiring in the attic, everything was so detailed. And I was
Yeah.
like, damn, it's a good idea. I'm gonna do that too.
Mhm.
All right, so that's how I have that.
And did you did you put more money into like one area specifically in the basement, or you kind of just after you had the drawings you said, all right, I'm just this is the layout, I'm okay with it.
I got a decent sized basement. Like my house is like a 5 bedroom house. There's like four full bathrooms, one powder room, and now I added on another room. Like it's a good size home, right? But what I did was, I think I wouldn't say I put more money into one places. More, I paid for things as they should be paid for, right? Without cutting any quarters or anything like that. Like I keep on saying, because it's very important that you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with me personally, the way how I structured it, I could have put 3 rooms in down here, but I didn't. I did 2 really big rooms or really big washrooms, so it's spacious. Every space is defined, and you know there's hallways and stuff like that, and it came out really good. But I wouldn't say I put more money into one place than the other. I pay for things accordingly.
Okay. And what are some do's and don'ts with renovating if you're gonna go that route of not
Mhm.
using a contractor?
Do's and don'ts. Again, don't definitely don't take the first offer, right? What I did was for instance, I enlarged my egress windows, the basement windows. I made them 3 by 4, whatever. They're bigger, right?
Mm.
Um, and I was getting quotes like $500 a window, you know. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because when I researched it, they said it can be up to say like this amount of dollars, right? I was
Mm.
getting quotes for $800 a window, $1,000 a window. It didn't make any sense. I literally got someone to do both windows in the living area for, uh, I think it was around both windows was probably like $380, right?
Wow.
And that person is work is a part of a union, part of the like I don't know, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but he lays concrete and that's what it does. Like his work is concrete work, right? And he just basically cut down because it's cheaper to cut down and cut across,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because once you start cutting across, you start messing around with the foundation of the home,
Mm.
right? And the structural components of the home. But if you
Mm-hmm.
cut down, you're fine, right? So when you cut down, um, yeah, he got it all done for like $380. There's these huge windows. They let so much light in. Doesn't feel like a basement down here.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because that was my next. That was gonna lead to my next question. If you had to do any outside work,
Yeah, that's the only outside work that I did so far, and
mm,
I made sure that everything was sealed up properly and winterized so that we can make it through the winter. Nothing like that.
mm,
I mean, when I moved in was last October. It's gonna be a year in 12 days I've been here.
mm,
Um, and then obviously I went through winter and everything was fine.
mm,
But again, because I deal with these insurance claims every day through my work, I had to make sure that everything was done properly because I just know the mistakes. I
mm,
mean, the hazards that happens and the perils that happen
mm.
based on simple mistakes and cutting corners.
Yeah. Well, what the point that stuck out to me the most is just asking questions. Like for
Yeah.
me, I'm afraid to ask people questions, like because
Mhm.
they're the ones that know have the knowledge. So I'm just like, okay, I'll take your word for it. But the fact that
Mhm.
you're asking the questions, and it's like, why is it this much? And you just continue to ask questions, which led to a cheaper cost, right? So
Mhm.
that's a good point that you brought up. And with the or the trades that you hired, where did you find these guys?
Um, yeah, to touch on your ask questions thing, I think one of my cousins told me a long time ago, if you don't know nothing about cars, you know, ask like five or six mechanics about the same issue about your car. One of them's guaranteed to give you the right price and the right information, and then eventually you're gonna know a little bit more about cars, right? So that's exactly the role and the approach I took. Um, what was the second part of your question? I forgot there. But,
Where did you find the trade?
oh yeah, the trade people, Homestars. Um,
What's that?
Homestars. What's that?
What's Homestars?
Homestars is like it's like a database of all trades that you need
Mm,
for everything. You need a handyman, you need a plumber, you need a excavator, you need anything. You can go to Homestars, and all their ratings are there. All of their um, testimonials are on their pages and stuff like that. And sometimes their rates are there, but they'll come out, they'll give you a quote. Homestars is cool.
mm,
Um, other places, yeah, I think I got everyone through Homestars. Yeah,
mm.
I didn't like Kijiji anybody or anything like that. Not to say there's anything wrong with that, but I didn't do
Yeah.
it this time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was something that I always thought about too. Is like, where do
Oh,
you find
sorry,
these guys?
I got my electrician from Kijiji,
Oh, okay.
and he's my electrician. He's our mutual friend Richard's electrician. He's
Yeah.
really dope. You know, like I said, yeah.
Yeah. And so, what's the next steps for you since completing your basement and you having the love for real estate?
Um, I think the next task for me, one of my really good friends, he got a contractor because he was building a home for his parents in Guelph or something like that,
Mm,
and he got rid of the contractor,
mm,
and he became the contractor to build this house for his parents.
mm,
That's like beyond the type of workload that I can even imagine handling. But I think the next step for me is I'm looking for actively looking for like property, land. I mean, I'm trying to build my own custom home. I have the plans and everything. I found a home that I absolutely love from a builder out um, in Westminster, Alberta.
mm.
I bought the plans from him, and yeah, that's my next step right there.
When you say you bought the plans, like the blueprints?
Blueprints, yeah. Blueprints,
Okay, okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And with the contractor, did you have to fire anybody while on the job where like you guys just
No,
didn't agree and you're like,
no. One of the things I made sure I didn't deal with friends. And when I have this thing about when it comes to like your personal things, like your mortgages and your home and stuff, you don't deal with friends because when it's time to yell at someone, you got to yell at them, right? And then it's kind of harder to do that when you do you have a friend doing the work. But I didn't fire anyone on the job, but I was very cutthroat with vetting people and getting quotes. It's just like this is this is this is the work. Can you do it? How much is your price? Man, I don't like that. Next person, and same and repeat it all over again.
Mm,
But I think everyone that I got in here, I was happy with. My
mhm,
framer became a little bit annoying because he was trying to ask for a little bit more money, but
mhm,
I'm not dumb. It's math, right? And when I sit
yeah.
down and break down the math to him, and I said, "How could you ask for more money?" And he's just like, "Oh, okay, sorry, my bad." Right? But if you, again, you have to. There's no favors for anyone. This is your home,
Mhm,
and you have to put yourself, your family, and your household first.
mhm,
Everything else comes second, right? You're not. If you don't think you're being mean to anyone, you got to live here. At the end of the day, when you're done your job, you're moving on to someone else. You
yeah.
have to be there. So you have to make sure that it is done right.
Mhm.
So
Did any of your contractors go over? Well, I guess you were purchasing the supplies, so
yeah.
there wasn't really, I guess, over budget in terms of
Oh, of
like,
course, of course. Yeah.
mm,
Um, it's just always coming back. Oh, we need this. So we need this. We need that. I'm like, okay, well, we just took a trip to Home Depot yesterday. Why didn't we just get it then? Oh,
yeah.
I didn't realize. Blah blah whatever. Da da da. And maybe it would have been easier for them if they were to just buy the stuff and I reimburse them, or maybe if they were to me give them the money and they can go do whatever they need to do.
Mhm,
But I opted not to do that. Again, the Home Depot is down the road from my house, and I would go there with them and purchase everything on a credit card so I can keep track of
mhm,
everything, right? Because one thing I made sure I tried my best not to do was use different types of payment resources, so that it was just easier for me to log and
mhm,
keep myself on track in terms of like the strict budget that I was trying to maintain.
mhm.
You know,
So would you say you came under budget, on budget, or over budget?
I think I said that it was going to probably be around like 50-40 grand, and I came out like say 38 grand,
Mhm,
give or take a couple $100.
mhm,
um yeah, I think I'm happy with the budget. I wouldn't say I'm under,
mhm.
but I'm definitely happy with the amount that I spent.
And did you appraise the house after?
No, not yet. um i i i, I mean, you can appraise the house.
Mhm,
um there's a saying, it's not about how much your house is worth, it's how much your neighbor sold it for, right? So that's what I pay attention to. What is being sold out there for? Because I could do all this amazing work on my house, but guess what? If my comparables are horrible, then I'm not charging anything extra to get when I sell it. It's just going to
mhm.
be whatever it is in the market.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very insightful. I learned a lot, and like I have a little knowledge here there, but
Yeah.
you open my eyes to a lot of things. So I really
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
being here.
Yeah, man.
I feel there's a lot of value people can get from this, especially people that have the unfinished basements. They move in, they have no idea what to do.
Mhm.
Contractor comes in and then does what they feel is right instead of what they've wanted, right? So really appreciate you for being here.
Yeah,
And
and
that wraps up.
sorry, I just want to say you can save money by doing things yourself.
Mhm.
I bought a paint gun and I painted everything here myself,
Oh,
right?
I seen the videos.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, if you can do things yourself, do it. It's gonna save you money.
Yeah.
All
Did
right.
you
If you
return the
got
paint gun too?
no, 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 I still got the paint gun. I lend it out to friends. I should probably rent it out. All right.
Hey, it's a side hustle you can start, man.
Yeah, for real. But other than that, if you can just do things yourself, it will save you a lot of money. Again, the time can be very, daunting. It could be a lot, but overall, the overall product and finished products can be worth it.
Mhm.
That's all. Thank you, brother.
Thank you once again. And that wraps up another episode of the Dope Podcast, where we display other people's experience, expertise, and enhance your knowledge. Until next time.
No doubt.